welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margo McCabe from the HarperDB team.
Great, so we are live on air. So welcome. Today we have Debbie O'Brien as our guest. I'm super excited. I connected with Debbie a little while back and we had some back and forth for a while. I think you recently had a career change or a role shift. So
I did.
Thankful that you could make time for us now. I'm super excited to hear about that. And you're based in Spain, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. What part of Spain are you in?
So Mallorca, it's a little island, the Balearic Islands. So it's quite beautiful. But yeah, you need a plane to go everywhere though. So it's like, in these times, a little bit difficult.
I did what all the American university students do back in college. I studied abroad in Barcelona. So we went over to Mallorca a couple times. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah.
That's great. Cool. And so I guess to start off, Debbie, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background, what you were doing before, what you're doing now, kind of what you're focusing on, just anything about your journey that'd be fun to share.
Sure. So my background, yeah, it's kind of like, where do you start, right? That's like a load of questions in one. That's going to take up like a whole hour. I don't know, cutting a long story short, I started off studying to be a secretary and ended up being bored and ended up in the graphic design and web design course. That was many, many years ago. And that's how I started getting into web design. But web design was very boring back then. So I left and I actually came to Mallorca to be an entertainer in a hotel and a stage and just have fun, right? Because I was like,
cool.
in your 20s, and that's what you do in your 20s. You don't think about taking life seriously. So yeah, I did that for many years. And then you get to a stage in your life where you go, right, I can't just have 6 months work a year and travel for 6 months. I need a proper job. And went back to studying, and obviously web design had changed. So you have to study Flash, and then WordPress came out, and you're just constantly upskilling. And then it got to a stage I had a few jobs in startup companies as a front-end developer, but then the front-end developer role changed and I hadn't upskilled to the level of the front-end development role. So I ended up being unemployable basically, because all I knew was HTML and CSS, and I knew it really, really well, but that was not good enough in the front-end market. So I had to take a year out and just study full-time and learn everything I could about JavaScript and master it finally, so that I could get employed again, because no company would hire me because, I didn't have a computer science degree, didn't have JavaScript knowledge. I was just a typical front ender with very good architectural skills, with CSS, with SAS, with HTML, but I had no JavaScript. I didn't know React. I didn't know any of these frameworks, right? And therefore, so that's what I did. That was 4 years ago.
So what methods did you use to learn JavaScript over that course of the year? Did you do online coding school? Did you kind of do self-learning? Still to me, a year sounds like a short period of time to learn all of that. But I guess if you're dedicating all your time to it.
Yeah, it's so basically I looked here for schools, but you've been to Mallorca. It's a very small island, right? So there's not a lot of possibilities, and I'm married here, and I love my husband, of course. So I'm not going to move to somewhere where there's a great place for studying, etc. So I'm very limited to the job market in that moment. Now with remote, it's different, but I was very limited to that job market and very limited to where I could study and learn. And there wasn't that many online courses available. And there are a few there was 4 years ago, there were a few kind of courses, but I don't know, I found it very, very difficult to learn on my own. I like having a person. I like having someone tell me not just where I'm going wrong, but why it's going wrong. What I'm it's about teaching the understanding it, right? Instead of saying, oh, you do it this way. No, I need to know why do you do it this way? Why can't I do it that way? Why does that way not work, right?
Right.
So I did open classrooms. They're actually a company based in France, and I was their first English-speaking student. So they had literally they've been in France for many, many, many years, and they literally just released the kind of English version. And I had a French teacher, but his English was great. And they basically kind of started this pilot kind of program in English, and I was one of the first ones to sign up.
Oh, cool.
And it was good because you have a one-to-one with your mentor, right? So you had a one-to-one session, an hour a week with a video call.
Okay.
And that makes a big difference. And then we
Yeah.
also had like the chat. So you could send a message and say, or send a screenshot and say, this is not working. What do I do? And your mentor would answer back and give you like, feedback, which was very different than when I did the O'Reilly School of Technology. And it was by email, and you send an email and then they get an email back 2 days later saying you're missing a semicolon at the end of line 12. And then you like email back and say, now this is wrong. And
Right.
that's a terrible way of working.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. There's definitely frustration in any situation when you want to keep working and keep moving. And it's a simple question, as you said, that might just be a 30-second answer.
yeah,
And not have someone you can go to for that. Because even there's so many forums online now and really friendly communities where you can place your coding questions and things, but not having that on-demand response, or at least some face-to-face to just like list out all your questions, I feel like that would be really frustrating.
yeah. No, definitely. I recommend anyone who's like me and who likes to learn with somebody telling them, where they're going wrong, etc. The mentoring program for me, that was like, it was key. And I also did Treehouse. So I don't know if you probably heard of Treehouse in America.
Yeah.
So I also did the Treehouse tech degree, and they have a different kind of way of doing it. So it's like mentoring through Slack. So you have your Slack channel, and they do have people there ready to help you and answer your questions. Just there's no one-to-one. But that was okay. And that's in a way like how real life works, because, you ask that question on a GitHub issue and it gets kind of like, answered, and, people continue that kind of thread. So
Right.
So it was a really good way of learning as well. And they did peer reviews, which were great. So when someone handed in a project, we could review that project. And that means we learned to jump into other people's code bases, which is like the scary thing, right? So, so that was really helpful.
Okay. So it sounds like you did kind of a combination of some of the different methods. And I've heard, if you're trying to learn as much as you can in a short period of time, do a combination of watch videos, read articles, do hands-on, work with people live. So it sounds like you did a good combination of all of that to learn as much as you could.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person that needs to be taught by different people. So
Right.
like when I was skiing, for example, one ski instructor could not teach me to ski. I needed 4, and they needed to tell me. One told me it's about basketball, and then you jump up and do the hoop. Another was telling me it's about spaghetti and pizza. And I needed to get all those different kind of like, things in my head. So
Yeah.
I found the same with learning to code. I needed to learn from different people and different resources. And yeah, I spent a lot of time. I gave up my job, and I was very lucky that I had some money saved up from our wedding. And I basically used all our wedding money to change my job, right? To change my career. And my husband at the time was like, Debbie, you can't leave your job. I was teaching English at the time. He's like, you can't leave your job if you don't have a job to go to. And I was like, I know, but I've got to do this now. If I don't do this now, I was like, 38 at the time. So I was like, if I don't do this now, like there's no hope doing it 5 years later or whatever. I've got to do it now. This has to work.
Yeah.
So I was very dedicated.
Okay.
And I studied 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, for about 9 months, full time, nonstop, until I actually became employable and got a job.
That's incredible. Well, I'm sure looking back now, you don't regret it, because that's gotten you to where you are today.
Decision ever. Yeah. Even my husband was like, I'm so glad we you took that chance, because it was a chance and you really don't know if you're going to make it. And I was like, look, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back and work in a bar. I can always work in a bar. I can teach English. I can do that again. It's not what I want to do, but I could do it. So
right.
you just have to kind of say, I want to change my life. I want to change my job. I want to change my career, and just go for it. And just kind of like, it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be in 6 months. You're going to have to put time and effort into it. And if you have the time, then you should just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I rarely hear people say that they regret investing in themselves or learning a new skill or a new language. Sometimes some programs and methods are, of course, more expensive than others. But as you said, if you have the time and the resources, it's just the time is now. Just do it when you can and when it's on your mind, because I think that's more of a regret that people have, is not trying something that they wanted to. So I think that's a good reminder. And as you said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to, I mean, I know a lot of people learning to code are super overwhelmed and don't know where to start, but you got to just start somewhere.
Yeah. And sometimes paying money is worth it. And it's like when you go to the gym, right? And there's like in the park, there's all these like exercise things and they're free. And you can do them, they're free, but you don't ever do them, right?
Yeah.
You go to the gym, you actually end up paying money. So you end up going to the gym more and you end up doing it. And it's the same. I think I found the same because like we had, deadlines to get things done and we had to meet those deadlines, which makes you kind of, organize your time better and try and get things out the door as opposed to like, oh yeah, today wasn't feeling it today. I didn't study. I didn't do anything.
Right.
It's hard to get motivated sometimes. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And to have something to hold you accountable, some sort of homework or someone you're turning something into, that's a really good metaphor with the working out. Because now that I don't go to gyms right now with COVID, even though things are starting to open back up, but I pay for just a virtual weekly, like you can just do any types of virtual classes. And
yeah.
I think because I'm paying for it, I at least force myself to do it like 3 times a
I
week.
do the same. I have body combat, online body combat. And because I'm paying, I have to do it. Because
Yeah, I calculated out, like I have to do X amount of classes a week to make this worth it. So
yeah.
that's awesome. So what happened next then? What was your first job after, that 9 months of boot camp?
Yeah, I don't like to call it boot camp because boot camp I think is a bad name, right? Because boot camp is about learning really quickly in a short space of time and coming out with overwhelming of knowledge and not knowing anything. That's the way I look at boot camps, right? So this was like a tech degree, and I think that like spaces it out more.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, I got a job in a company here in Mallorca, which it's like an online travel agent, but very, very, very big scale. So they have a lot of kind of brands, and my job was basically doing front end and building components. That was what I was hired to do. But because I have many years of experience in front end, just not JavaScript, I had a lot of like architectural ways. I'd worked with a lot of other code bases. So I ended up kind of like writing scripts for things and like organizing their code base. So they actually moved me into the architectural department. Okay. And they put me on the team responsible for basically re-architecting the whole of the front end framework and building a new framework to their needs. So it was an amazing project. And I got to work with really, really clever people. I was just surrounded by really, really good. I was surrounded by architects, right? So my knowledge just jumped through the roof because the challenges I was doing and the job I was involved in was like high scale. It wasn't just building a component. It was how to get developers to build a better way of doing stuff, and that everything works so it's easier for them. So it's understanding their problems, finding their problems, and finding solutions to them. So developer experience kind of stuff and architecture. It was really cool.
Awesome. That sounds really fun. Yeah, as you said, that sounds like a kind of mixed bag of a lot of different experience in one. So that's great. Did you stay at that company for a while?
So I was there for a year, and it was actually my boss, the CEO of the company, after a year told me that I needed to leave. And I was like, I was like crying. I was like, but I love it here and I love working with these guys. What do you mean I need to leave? And he's like, Debbie, you've just created a framework. What are you going to do now? Just like build components? We don't have anything for you that's going to help you grow even further. And you need to grow more. So you need to go to another company where you can learn new skills and continue growing. And like, take your time, find the job. We'll help you find the right one. There's no hurry. And I was like, oh my God. So it was really nice. Yeah. I had a really amazing CEO, definitely. Really amazing company to work for it was. So yeah, I got a job in an agency, and agency work is different, right? It's very complicated. You learn a lot because you're thrown into so many different code bases. And like, I was working in Vue and I was working in Angular, and I was like doing workshops and teaching other companies. I was doing a lot of performance testing for companies and like a lot of consulting. Okay. So again, like my whole level of knowledge just kind of like was, every different angle under the sun, right?
Right. Yeah. That's so interesting. as you said, what an incredible boss and manager to be able to take the initiative and say, hey, I could keep this really talented person here who's clearly helping us, but he saw the potential and wanted you to keep being challenged. I think that's probably quite rare and really great that you had that experience, because I think going through things like that now, maybe one day you'll be able to do the same favor for someone else or something, and just kind of realizing that's how people can keep expanding and growing. And so when you moved and you keep learning and trying all these different things, was it helping you to understand, like, okay, I don't like doing those things, I like doing those things, maybe this is a path I want to do more long term? Or were you just kind of like, I'm a sponge, I want to do everything and try everything and I can figure that out later on? Because I know some people ask, like, at what point do you need to determine, I'm going to stay on this strict path and work with these frameworks and do this? And I know there's kind of that battle of like casting too wide of a net versus being specialized. So just curious what your take is. And I'm sure there's no right or wrong answer, but
yeah, no, for me it was different because with the agency, like, I learned a hell of a lot, and I got the opportunity to go to a lot of conferences, which was great. So again, I had a great boss there that allowed me to do and be able to go to conferences during my working schedule. I like a lot of conferences, and that helped me. My knowledge obviously got a lot better, which I was teaching then the team and consulting for companies. So it was very important for me to have this knowledge and be able to walk into those companies feeling confident and not kind of saying, oh, I don't know if that's correct. Like actually walking and go, no, I know that's correct because I've spoke to this person at a conference about it. And so that was really important. But I got to the stage in the agency that I didn't enjoy what I was doing anymore, because all I was doing was consulting and teaching.
Okay.
And I knew how to do everything, but my fingers were not doing any work.
Right.
And I was like, I'm losing my skills. I'm teaching, but if you don't keep doing something, you can't build fast enough. Like, you end up being the slow developer, but you can tell someone how to do it. But if you were asked to solve a problem, you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't remember how to do it. How do I do that? And you like documentation. And so my key for 2020 was to be a better developer, to learn more developing skills, to actually code more.
Okay.
And that's why I left where I was. And not just that, but Nuxt came along and offered me an amazing job, right? I wasn't going to say no to Nuxt. So, but obviously, yeah, that's one of the things I didn't want to do anymore, was manage people, because I was managing people more than coding. And I wanted to step back away from that role. And there's nothing wrong with managing people, but I just want to code. I don't want to be a manager of people.
I mean, it's a good thing to know. I mean, at least you got to experience it. I would assume that a lot of people feel the other way around and start from the bottom and are slowly working their way up, and they maybe dream of managing a development team one day, but until you're really in that position, it's hard to know if you're going to enjoy it. And as you said, I'm sure the higher up you move and the more people you're managing, the less work you're actually doing. And so it's probably takes a certain type of personality and just interest to want to be more hands off. And I think that makes sense. And it's great that you got to have that experience early on, and that that for now it's not something you really want to do and you want to contribute. And I think that's probably good for people to hear, because it kind of seems like managing is the ultimate end goal, but especially in the development space, it's so hard to transfer those skills. I mean, you have to have so many additional people skills and organization, and you could be the best developer in the world, and that doesn't mean you're going to be great at managing a team. So I think it's important for people to be in those positions because you want to be, not just because you're so good at these skills or just because it was convenient or something like that. So it's good that you were able to identify that. Maybe you can revisit that one day.
Maybe, yeah. And I think, like, going back to that, a lot of people get put into those roles without being ready and prepared for them, and without the company actually it's basically, you're the highest level in the company now, or you know the most, so now you're going to be the team lead and you're going to lead the team, and you're like, but what is the company going to do for me to help me lead that team? Do you know what I mean? Like, because you need a bit of, like, I end up reading books and doing courses because I was like, I'm not doing this right. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to learn how to lead people. People are hard. To lead them right, you need to learn a lot. And I think a lot of people, get pushed into positions they're not ready for, which then becomes very hard for them to do a good job. And and to like actually enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I think even if you're coming from another position of managing a team, I think each individual company should have the training and resources in place, because every product, every team, every individual person you're managing is going to be different. And yeah, I can't imagine the stress of just being thrown into it, of now on top of your normal tasks, make sure these people are also doing their tasks.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think I knew at that stage as well that I wanted to go into developer advocacy, because like I'd been going to all these conferences, and you know, I knew I wanted to keep doing that. I didn't want to go to another company where you're not let go to conference and you're just like developing. So I didn't want to go back to just developing.
Right.
And I did want to be team leading. So you got to find that role that I wanted. And I think the developer advocate role is that kind of perfect role in between, where you're like developing plus you're advocating.
Right. So you did that at Nuxt then for a while after that?
I know, it's like every year Debbie changes jobs. It's so terrible, right?
There's
My
nothing
husband's
wrong
like,
with
stop
it.
changing jobs. He's had one job all his life. He's not able for me.
I mean, it's so common these days. There's nothing wrong with it. You know,
I know. My family have bets on me. They literally have bets. How long is Debbie going to stay in the job? And it's like, it's not my fault. I didn't leave my first job. My first job told me to leave.
Right.
You know what I mean? My second job, Nuxt came along, and it was just like the perfect opportunity. So it was no way I could say no. Otherwise, I would have stayed possibly like till the end of the year. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was offered the job at Nuxt, and I'd already been advocating for Nuxt because I was passionate about it. I was speaking at conferences. I was contributing. Nuxt is open source. I was contributing in open source. And I actually just love Nuxt. I used to sell it to all the agencies or to all the clients at the agency, right? So I used to teach Nuxt to our team, to all the other teams. So for me, it was like a perfect like opportunity to actually just get paid for what I'm like doing, you know, in my free time. Like, so yeah, I stayed there for 11 months. It's just under a year. And it was fantastic. I absolutely had a fantastic time there. I learned so much and got involved in really involved in the open source world a lot more, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And it was a very different kind of role. It was meant to be different than what it was. But then, you know, COVID happened, and like the role had to change in itself. Right. And all of a sudden, Debbie's very good at speaking at a conference on a stage, and now all of a sudden you don't have that stage, and you got to like make your own stage and try out YouTube and live streams and scary things, and it's like, oh, I'm not ready for that.
Well, a lot of people feel the opposite. A lot of people are so used to being behind a camera and doing YouTubes that then they have to go live to a conference, and that's the scary part. So.
No, yeah, but remember, I was on the stage in Mallorca, so the stage is like my home. I'm good at the stage. But live coding was my fear, because remember, coding is something that I wasn't, in my opinion, I wasn't very skilled at, because I'd been leading, and my brain knows more than my fingers. Okay. So you're putting me on a live stream, and now my fingers have to do the work, and my brain needs time to think, and you don't have time to think on a live stream. You've got to just make it happen. Right. So that's why that scared me so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is it that you love about Nuxt.js? I mean, how did you originally get into it? Why were you so drawn to it? You know, why is it so easy to work with for you, I guess, just in case people aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, I think because it's easy. So again, my skill level wasn't like I learned React in the course, and I learned Angular in the course. I didn't learn Vue in the course. And then I came across Vue, and I was like, wow, this is so much easier, and I can actually do things faster. And if I can do things faster, I am more productive. And if I can be more productive, and then I have a team of people, and I have to teach them, and they don't know any JavaScript or not much JavaScript, and they have to be productive. Right. Well, then, you know, Vue is the right answer. And Nuxt is even like, it's on top of Vue. So it's like a meta framework. So Nuxt will be able to help you create websites even faster. Okay. Because they're doing all the router.js file for you automatically. They're doing a lot of stuff for you, code splitting automatically. You don't have to worry about all that. So you can just, especially at the agency level, you can just ship things out the door very fast. So it makes sense. So that's why I loved it, is probably because it's easy, it makes sense to me, and you can be very productive very fast. Okay. So that's why,
Yeah, makes sense. Sounds, yeah, very beginner friendly. It's almost, I mean, I'm sure starting with JavaScript and other frameworks that you did is still helpful, but if you could go back, would you have just started directly with Vue and Nuxt or?
Um, like I've been working with Nuxt for so long that my JavaScript skills are so terrible because you almost don't need JavaScript, right? And this is
Right.
the problem I'm having at the moment because I've just changed jobs and now I'm working in React.
Okay.
And React is very JavaScript focused. So
Right.
now all of a sudden I'm like, I've got to do like in Vue, we do a V4 and then it just loops everything out for you. And you just like, V4 item and items done. And now I'm in React and I'm going, do we have a React for? Do we have an OR for? How do I do that, right? Because everything is done so easy for you. So now I've got to go back to basics almost and learn, okay, map. I remember map. I did that 3 years ago. How does map work again?
That's so funny. I know it seems like there's in certain situations there are some crossovers and similarities, and in others it feels like a completely new foreign language and framework. So it's interesting. It probably, no matter how many years you've been working with one certain framework, making a switch is going to be challenging for anyone if it's totally new. So I mean, it's great that you've had experience in so many different areas. I think, as you said, hopefully it'll be like riding a bike, that now once you learn React, if you do go back to Nuxt, you won't forget.
I don't think you can never forget Nuxt because Nuxt is just easy. And React, React, I'm getting there. I'm still learning. I've been learning React for a month, so I'm like very, very beginner, very junior. I've been back to a junior again, but I'll get there. I will pick it up.
Yeah. So you were a developer advocate at Nuxt for almost a year.
Yeah.
And you did one more switch recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they found me on Twitter actually and approached me and asked me to come and work for them. And I was like, no, I have a job. So so this was like I'm actually not looking for a job. I'm not leaving Nuxt. I'm really happy in my job. And I told them that 3 times. And they managed to persuade me. And I'm glad they did in a way. And I feel bad saying that because I love Nuxt, right? So,
Yeah.
but they have given me the opportunity to take on a massive new challenge and to kind of like grow even more than I probably could have grown if I had stayed at Nuxt. And I'm still like involved in Nuxt because I'm still a Nuxt ambassador. So I'm still kind of doing Nuxt stuff.
Right.
But now I'm learning all this other stuff. And that's challenging. And I'm building generator tools. Like at the moment, I'm building templates for like, creating React components.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like doing so much more building work at the moment in Bit. So I'm working for Bit.dev. And yeah, I've been like thrown into the deep end, I guess you can say, which is really, really nice because it's like, I don't know React and now you're asking me to build this tool. And like, oh my God, how do I even do this? Where do I start? Which I like because I think I work better when you throw me in the deep end. And
Right.
if you have a great team of people around you, people who have time to show you, then you can learn so much more and you can learn so much faster. Because like I said, I'm the person who needs the person to teach me.
Right. Right.
So if you just give me the book and give me the instructions, I'll fail. I need the person to show me and live screen and show it. And so, yeah.
That's great. I mean, yeah, it seems like you've been fortunate and all these great opportunities have presented themselves to you. It's not like you had a horrible experience at any of those places or regret it. It's all been a building block and you continue to learn and expand. And I think that's one of the greatest things about the tech industry is it's just so easy to jump around. And I mean, it's not very common in any industry anymore to be like, oh, I've been at the same company for 45 years and changed roles. Well, I mean, that's not very common at all anymore. But I think specifically in tech, it's so cool how you can jump around, and sometimes it's a horizontal jump, sometimes it's a vertical jump. But I think the industry itself is so understanding of, oh, you tried that for 5 months, realized it didn't work. Like, awesome. What did you learn from it? What will you do moving forward? And there's way less of that stigma of it doesn't look good on your resume to jump around. I think it's the opposite. It's you're learning, but also learning what you like to do, expanding your skills while figuring out what you're good at. So
yeah,
it seems like
on saying that I'm not leaving this job. So no one, please, like, don't contact me and don't offer me. Like, that's it. I need to like stay in the one place for a while.
Yeah. Alert, do not contact me.
It's getting too much now. I can't cope anymore. My mother's given out. It's like, come on.
And so you're still in the developer advocacy realm, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So
okay.
I'm head of developer advocate at the moment, and I think the possibility is going to happen in the future that I will end up leading a team.
Okay.
But not now. And
right.
That's good because we're not ready for that. And
yeah.
that time that will come possibly. That will change. But at the moment, we're growing. And when it grows, then yeah. But the thing is, and I think the difference between leading a team of junior developers and leading a team of developer advocates, it's a very different role, right? Developer advocates already know what they're doing. You're just feeding them energy.
Okay.
Junior developers, you're teaching them and you're helping them grow, and it's in skills and knowledge and thinking and everything. So that's why, like, if I go back to leading a team of developer advocates, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I don't want to lead a team of like junior developers. And there's nothing wrong with junior developers. I love junior developers, but it's too much tea. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, there's a difference between actually having to teach those skills versus providing they already have the skills, but you're just providing the resources and whatever they need to be able to take their skills and apply them. So I think there's a difference there. And again, it just depends what you want to do. What would you say, like, for developer advocacy, just from a high level umbrella, like what would be your main tips for people trying to get in that, or that just started in that space? And I guess maybe people listening don't know exactly how being a developer advocate is different from being a developer or being in DevRel or other roles. So what would your main takeaway on that be?
Yeah. So, like, to get into it, I think you almost have to be doing it before you get the job.
Okay.
One of those kind of jobs, right? So what does that mean? It means, like, if you're already speaking at conferences, if you're already writing blog posts, if you're already creating YouTube videos, etc., then you're already advocating. You're just probably not getting paid for it, right? So there's a lot of programs out there, like Zero, for example. They have an ambassador program, and Nuxt, we have the Nuxt ambassador program. So like people can start off and be an ambassador, and that gives them like a little platform to kind of like start from somewhere, and they can speak at a meetup and get a little bit of support, and then they can eventually get into that developer advocate job. How do you get into the actual job? I think for me, it's about, I could never work as a developer advocate for any company, right? So I don't know, you tell me you have a company and you want me to advocate for it, and I don't like what you're doing, or I don't feel that I'm passionate about it, I can't do it. So like Nuxt was easy for me to work for because it's like I'm passionate about it. And at Bit, it was different because I didn't know the product at first. So I had to kind of look at the code base, kind of study it, learn it. Actually, interesting enough, I didn't know of it from 3 years ago. So I knew of it, but I hadn't used it at like a production scale, etc.
Okay.
When you start to learn the product and you kind of go, okay, I can see that this is going to be, useful. This is going to be good. I would use this. I could go to a client and say, this is going to be very good for your, it's going to, be a solution to your problems, etc. Then I can advocate for that product. But I'm not a salesperson. You can't like pay me to go and sell a car. I hate cars. I don't do cars, right? So all cars, they're white, they're black, they're green, and they've got 4 wheels, and that's as far as I can go with cars, right? So I think when it comes to being a good developer advocate, it's about not taking a job just because it gives you the chance to speak at conferences, but taking a job because you are passionate about that product and about, you think that that's going to be a good fit for many people. And because I don't have to force anything. I just be natural, and I'm doing my job. So it's very easy.
Yeah. That's a really, really strong point, is that, technically you could go out and talk about and promote anything, but I think it's sometimes, especially in the tech industry, like you can tell when something is a kind of a paid advertisement style. Like you can tell when it doesn't come across very, it just, yeah, it doesn't seem real. You can tell when someone's just kind of like reading a script or just copying and pasting text versus like, hey, I tried this out and it's really cool and here's why. And I think that's something that probably a lot of companies deal with and struggle with. I know me personally, because I do a lot of finding different kind of influencers in the tech space and people to try out HarperDB and write about it. And I always say, we want you to be honest. If you try it out and don't like it, let us know. But if you do like it, would you be interested in writing a blog about it? Like I try to approach it that way because you want people to be genuine and don't just take the role just because it pays well. You should know about the product or be excited about the message or the problem they're solving. And then, as you said, it probably makes the rest a lot easier.
Yeah. And I think as well, when you go into the role, you should know what you want from it. You should kind of know where you're going to take it and what you want in return. So it's kind of like, right, I want to, I don't know, maybe you want to like speak at loads of conferences. Maybe that's your big thing. For me, like going into Bit, for example, it was about improving my coding knowledge. That was, for me, key. I want to program more. I will speak at conferences. I will do, YouTube stuff. I will do podcasts. I will do etc. But I want to be building more. And if they can provide that, then that's helping me because I feel if I'm a better programmer, then I can help companies and speak about architecture better because I'm actually building and facing those problems myself. And if I'm not facing those problems myself, I can't go out there on a stage and say, oh yeah, this is going to solve your problems, but I haven't had any problems, but I know it's going to solve yours. Right? So I need to be building those, finding those issues and experiencing the things to be able to then use that, basically use the product. I'm using the product every day. I'm using Bit all the time to build everything. And therefore I know what Bit does. I know the problems it has and I know the benefits that you get out of it. And therefore it's easy for me to do my job. But if I didn't code and I just spoke, but that would be selling. That would be just being a marketing person. And that's not who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And so do you work pretty hand in hand with kind of the product team, get, feedback both ways? So are you really in tune with current users and the community and trying to hear what they like, what they don't like, and translating that back? Like, do you find that you're kind of a liaison, I guess, between your users and community with your product team? Is that a big part of it too?
Yeah, I'm very, very involved with product. And I think that's very necessary. And I'm also very involved in like building, like I do so much teamwork in this job that I'm constantly just building and I'm involved in all teams. I'm spread out over every department. Like, I don't think I have a department. I'm just me and I'm in every department. Right. So yeah, I'm involved in like the community and bringing those things back to the product, but the product is also in the community as well, which is nice. So it's not just them listening from me. They're also hearing it. We have a Slack channel. People can go into the Slack channel on Bit.dev and, chat to us and we'll help out. And maybe the product team will actually answer and then I'll kind of like see that answer and then I'll know it the next time if someone asks me in a podcast interview, for example. So it's about kind of like everyone's kind of like doing a bit of everything, I think, in that way, and I think that's really important that you're hands-on in every department and product is also with you, like we're doing live stream videos with the product team and therefore they're kind of getting into the community as well in a way. So, yeah.
No, I'm definitely familiar with that, just being at a small tech startup where I get what you're saying with there's not specifically a department, everyone kind of jumps around and is very involved. But at a bigger company, I think that makes sense with someone in, being a developer advocate, developer relations, things like that. Because it's not just one siloed thing. You have to juggle all the different moving parts. And as you said, sometimes there's things the product team want the public to know and vice versa. And so it's a lot of different, communication is probably so key in a role like that. I know one of the last podcast guests I did is an engineer at Netflix. And he said he thinks the most important and underrated quality for anyone in any type of developer role to have is communication. And you don't really think about that because you picture the standard like developer behind their computer not having to talk to people. But as with any company and any product in any department, you have to work together and collaborate. And no matter what role or background you have, you got to communicate.
Yeah, I think this is one thing I've learned at this company that's really, it's been so beneficial because our communication is actually so good. And it's not that everyone else is doing it wrong, just that the situation in life changed and people had to adapt, and we all had to adapt how we best could. And Bit seemed to have kind of like managed to find a very good solution that I really, really, really like. And it's, I don't know if you have seen it before, but Discord, for example,
right.
The application, we're using Discord as our virtual office.
Okay.
Right. And you might say, okay, what does that mean? And it means we have all these rooms set out, like meeting rooms and stuff. And, you know, some people also have that. And then like, that's doesn't work, right? But what we have is that the meeting rooms are there and we have to go to the office. Like we should go to the office. So when you go to the office, when you turn up in the morning, you put yourself in a room, and there's different rooms, right? There's like a big meeting room. There's an open space room. There's a lunch room. There's a studio. I'm in the studio now. I'm in the recording studio. So people can kind of see that Debbie's online, but she's not going to answer any questions because, you know, you can't, I'm not available right now, but I'm probably going to finish at some point. And I'm probably going to read the Slack messages if there's something urgent, and then I'll be able to answer someone before I actually finish off for the day, right?
Yeah.
That's clever. It means that you can, you can jump in. So like I can see who's available, who's online, and I can jump into a room and say, hey, I've got this problem. Can I share my screen and show you? And you get a solution to your problem straight away. Right. Because you're doing voice, you're talking. You can put the video on if you want to do video. You can screen share. And then we use Slack for actual messages. So, because the threads are better in Slack, right?
I was going to ask what your main, because we're big Slack users, our team. So I was going to ask what the main, I don't know, benefits or comparisons. I know Discord is growing super fast. Or maybe you need both, I guess. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think both work really well as well, because we do like, you know, we also have like, say, client stuff on Slack, you know, so those kind of private channels, and Slack is kind of very good for that. Slack is great for threads. Discord brought it in very recently, but it's still not, you know, it's not 100% there. So we could use Discord and just get rid of Slack, but I think Slack is good. So I like the fact that we do all that, you know, communication through Slack. And then if you want to like do voice, you just jump into the meeting room with someone. We have our dailies in Discord as well. Okay. And it's really, really nice because I'm constantly speaking and listening to people. And it's like, all of a sudden I'm surrounded by people and I'm still in my same office room, right? I'm still in the same four walls, but I have people, I'm talking to people all day, every day. Yeah. And that's where we were saying about communication is really important. Right. And this is how we can get involved so easily with the different teams, because we're actually talking to them. Right. And that's been really helpful for me. Yeah. Yeah. I know. When we first went remote about a year ago, it was constantly having weekly meetings with the different teams, doing a Zoom meeting where you had to have your camera on, and just a lot more communication. I think slowly for us and for a lot of other companies I've talked to, it's slowly dropping off. I mean, I know our developer team has actually been a lot more productive since we've been working remote, but people are still productive and getting their jobs done, but we definitely are having a little bit less face-to-face time. I think so many people are just kind of over video conferencing now, but I like that idea with Discord. That's a creative way to at least be checking in every day and having some sort of conversation, and an easy way to jump on a call if needed. And you don't have to turn video on, right? Because you know, you might just want to like ask a question, and sometimes typing it all out in Slack, it's just like, and then, you know, by the time someone gets, it's just easier to say, hey, I've got this issue. Can I share my screen? Bang. Here's the, you know, and there could be 3 other people in that room. And then the person you thought was going to answer it maybe is not the one that's going to answer it. Someone else will, and go, oh, I had that problem yesterday. And you end up like, I don't know. I find it's just like Office. You know, if you were to like walk over to a desk area and ask that question, someone else might answer it, right? Right. So it's that kind of same real life scenario in a virtual world. That's cool. That's interesting. I think that's a good tip to have. I know we've been kind of going back and forth on checking out Discord, so I'll have to bring that back to my team. Yeah, you should try it out, definitely. So this has been super interesting. I've really enjoyed hearing about your journey and chatting with you. I think each step of the way, it seems like you have learned something and grown from it, and have great examples and lessons learned for people listening. So I really appreciate it. One thing I like to ask at the end that's kind of fun, in addition to Nuxt and Discord and Slack, is if there's any kind of technologies or software that just came out or that are coming out this year that you're super excited about, or just something that makes your life easier, just anything in the tech world.
people should check out they might not know about?
Well, obviously I'm going to say Bit, right?
Right.
Which is Bit.dev. And the reason I'm saying it, not just because I'm working there, because then you're like, oh, you're going to do the marketing thing.
No
right?
worries. I mean, we haven't said much about what it is yet. So
yeah, but the reason I say it is because we have just released in public beta, so it's actually not even fully released. Is
okay.
the Harmony version? So it's a new version of Bit, and what Bit is it's very hard to explain in a very short kind of dialogue, but think about a way of sharing components across different teams, across different repos, across different user bases, and having feature ownership so that your team owns these features and owns those kind of like components. But you can collaborate together and you can import other people's components. You can have a design team, for example, that owns those components. The marketing team could own their components. The shopping cart team, for example, could own theirs. And you could like use components from others.
Okay.
And this kind of way of sharing across different teams, but yet being able to import into your code base, make changes if needed, export it, get a new version, see how that version then affects the other components that are using that component.
Okay.
It just makes it's very, very powerful. And what they've done is very, very clever how it works. And I've literally just published the documentation, the new documentation, to get started with it. So it should be a lot easier to get started, to test it out and try it out. So I would love people to test it out. You're going to find typos because I always make mistakes. and yeah, report back to us. Create like, it's open source as well. So you can go to our docs and like create a pull request and fix things for us as well. But test it out and give feedback would be brilliant. But yeah, bit.dev, do check it out, the Harmony version.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, no, that's super helpful for me to know, and sounds like something that is definitely efficient and makes life a little easier. And how many years has Bit been around?
So it goes quite back to about like 7 years ago they started building this, but really only about like I think 3 years ago it's kind of like, so the version 14, there's a lot of people using it, there's a lot of companies using it, and version 14 is good, but version 15 called Harmony is like out of this world, and it's completely rewritten, and completely, it's just, it's like a different product almost. So anyone on version 14 who's going to move to version 15 is going to be like, wow, mind blown, right? So
that's super
I mean, everything changes, right, over time. So if your product was created 3 years ago, like, you get new kind of things. So, everything changes, but definitely the ideas and the thoughts that have gone into it, like you can see that this is going places. It's going very, very far. It's being used already, even though in public beta it's being used by very big companies, and they're finding it very useful. And like we can see it going, like it's phenomenal what it can do. And
it sounds like you got in at the right time too. So that's pretty exciting. Like right before this release.
It's
that
also,
was all me. I did all that.
And it's also like it's like jumping on a fast train, right? Because this product is like there, and it's already out there in the public, which means people are using it, and still like, improving documentation and trying to create videos on it and trying to speak at it in conferences and learn it and use it and build on it and create cool things. And it's like, oh my God, so much to do. But it makes it a very, very exciting. It's very exciting to work a bit. It's very full on and hands on, which is what I love. Yeah. But it's very exciting working on a product that you think is going to do very well and kind of like make a change in developers' lives and help developers build things faster and better.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I'm appreciative that with everything going on that you still had time to be on the Select Star podcast. We certainly appreciate the time, and I'll be sure to put some links in the show notes and to your Twitter as well. I enjoy following you on Twitter. That's how I find most of the speakers for our podcast. So definitely, if you're out there listening and wondering if you should do social media or anti-social media, I get it, but it's a great networking tool. But yeah, either way, Debbie, really appreciate your time. This has been super fun. I've learned a lot. I know others will too. Hopefully I can get back out to Mallorca one day. I'm definitely jealous right now.
Yes. If you do, just give me a call. I'll still be here.
Awesome. I'll hold you to that. Well, it was great to meet you then. And I look forward to keeping in touch and hope all goes well over the next year with everything you're working on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.